All I wanted was a quiet life on my farm. But a woman from the local HOA had other plans. She said I was legally obligated to share my private land with her community for recreational use. When I refused, she didn't take me to court. She tried to take me down. And she nearly succeeded. My name's Ben Taylor. I'm 35 years old, and just under a year ago, I walked away from a high-paying civil engineering job to buy a beat-up farmhouse with 20 acres of land. People thought I was crazy. Leaving the city, the money, the so-called stability. But after working 60-hour weeks and staring at blueprints for buildings I didn't care about, I knew I had to get out. I wanted something real. Something I could build with my own hands. A life where I didn't have to answer to bosses, clients, or anyone else. I wanted peace. So I did my homework. Found a plot of land way out on the edge of town. 20 acres, zoned for agriculture, with a rundown old barn, and a view that made you forget the rest of the world existed. Best part? It was just outside the boundary of a place called Sunnyside Ridge, one of those neighborhoods with a homeowners association. I knew better than to get mixed up in one of those. I checked the maps, triple-checked the paperwork. No shared land, no easements, no obligations. This place was mine, free and clear. I didn't want anyone telling me what color my house should be or when I could mow my lawn. I'd had enough of that kind of control back in the city. The first few weeks were perfect. I got the garden beds going, brought in a few goats and chickens, fixed the irrigation, and started turning the old barn into something useful again. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. I'd never slept better in my life. Then, about 3 weeks in, I saw her. It was a Saturday morning, and I was unloading hay from the back of my truck when this woman came walking up my gravel driveway like she owned the place. Early 50s, short blonde hair, neat polo shirt tucked into khakis, and a clipboard under one arm. She had that look, the kind you see on someone who's never been wrong in their life. "Good morning," she said, all chipper. "I'm Janet Bishop. I'm the president of the Sunnyside Ridge HOA. Just want to come by and welcome you to the neighborhood." I set the bale of hay down and wiped my hands on my jeans. "Appreciate it," I said, "but I'm not actually part of your neighborhood." She laughed like I'd told a joke. "Oh, sure, I know you're technically just outside our HOA borders, but we all like to think of this whole area as a shared space, especially when it comes to green space maintenance." I blinked. "Green space maintenance?" She nodded, glancing toward my field like she was inspecting it. "Yes, you've got a lot of land, and the community really appreciates when everyone pitches in to keep things looking nice and uniform. You know, for property values and such." I crossed my arms. "Well, this land's not part of Sunnyside Ridge. I made sure of that before I bought it." Her smile didn't change, but something behind her eyes did. "Well, even so, you're still impacting the surrounding community. You are farming, after all, and with all that traffic, equipment, and smell, it does affect nearby homes." I felt my jaw tighten. "It's legal, zoned AG, county approved." She didn't argue, just stood there, smiling like she knew something I didn't. "Well," she said, "I'm sure we'll talk again soon. Just wanted to introduce myself and let you know we keep things orderly around here." With that, she turned and walked back down the drive, clipboard tucked under her arm like she'd just taken inventory of a warehouse. I watched her go. There was something off about her. Too rehearsed, too polite, like she wasn't here to say hi. She was here to deliver a warning. And standing there, hands on my hips, heart still thumping a little harder than it should have been, I had a gut feeling. This wasn't just a neighborly visit. This was the beginning of a problem I didn't ask for. At first, I thought it was just a one-time thing. A couple of people from the neighborhood walking their dogs a little too close to my fence. One guy cutting across the edge of my property like it was no big deal. I figured maybe they didn't realize the land was private, but it didn't stop. A few days later, I spotted 2 kids riding their bikes through my orchard. Not on the edge, not near the road, right through the middle, weaving between the trees like it was some kind of trail system. The next morning, a woman walked straight across my vegetable rows like she owned the place, her golden retriever running loose. It chased one of my goats halfway across the field before I could get out there yelling. That was it. I wasn't about to let this turn into a free-for-all. I went to the hardware store, bought a dozen big metal signs that said, "Private property," and trespassing, and lined my fence with them. Front, back, both sides. I figured that would stop it. It didn't. 2 days later, half the signs were gone, ripped clean off. One was tossed in the ditch. Another had been spray-painted over with the word community. Now it was starting to feel deliberate. A few mornings after that, I saw a woman standing near the back fence with her phone out, slowly turning in a circle and taking pictures of my land. She wasn't subtle. She was clearly documenting something. I stepped out onto the porch and shouted, "Hey, can I help you?" She acted like she didn't hear me, just turned and walked back towards Sunnyside Ridge like nothing happened. That same afternoon, Janet came back. Same stiff smile. Same clipboard. But this time, she didn't waste time pretending to be friendly. "We've had some concerns," she said, looking me dead in the eye. "A few of the neighbors have noticed your fencing isn't exactly up to community standards." I blinked. "Community standards? You're creating an eyesore," she said. "And more importantly, you're alienating the neighborhood with those aggressive signs and fences. It's making people uncomfortable." I crossed my arms. Uncomfortable enough to walk onto my land, tear down signs, let their dogs run through my crops? Her smile didn't waver, but her tone dropped a notch. "Ben," she said, "you may not be on the HOA map, but this land still affects the rest of us. The way you're choosing to use it, well, it doesn't exactly reflect the communal expectations we have here in Sunnyside." I held up a hand. "Let me stop you right there. I'm not in your HOA. I don't pay dues. I don't vote on your board. And I sure as hell don't answer to your expectations." She stared at me for a moment, like she was memorizing my face. Then she gave a stiff little nod and turned to leave. It should have ended there. But the next morning, I went out to feed the animals and found 2 of my goats missing. The back gate, which I always triple-check, was unlatched, not broken, not damaged, just wide open. I found the goats wandering near the tree line. Thank God. If they'd made it to the road, they could have been hit or worse. That's when I knew this wasn't just entitled people being careless. Someone was doing this on purpose. So I got smart. I ordered 2 trail cams and mounted them high in the trees, one at the back fence and one near the barn. I angled them just right so no one would see them unless they knew what to look for. And on the 3rd night, I got something. Just past midnight, a figure in a dark hoodie slipped through the rear fence. She moved slowly, like she'd done this before. She stopped near the gate, fiddled with the latch, and then turned. The hoodie slipped just enough to catch the logo on her shirt. A big, bold badge. Sunnyside Ridge HOA. It wasn't just some random neighbor. It was one of Janet's people. And if they thought they were going to scare me off this land, they were in for a hell of a surprise. It was a Tuesday afternoon, just after lunch. I was fixing a busted hinge on the barn door when I heard laughter, quick, sharp, and close. I walked around the side of the barn and saw him. A teenager, maybe 16 or 17, hoodie pulled up, crouched down with a spray can in his hand. He was halfway through tagging the side of my barn with bright orange paint. The words, "Share your land." I yelled, "Hey!" The kid jumped, dropped the can, and took off running across the field toward Sunnyside. I chased for a few steps, but he was fast, and I wasn't about to twist an ankle over it. Still, I got a clear look at his face, and I had security cams now. I went inside and called the sheriff's department, told them everything. Vandalism, trespassing, property damage. They said they'd send a deputy out. 20 minutes later, a patrol car rolled up, but they weren't alone. Janet Bishop was already standing at the end of my driveway, arms crossed, that same clipboard tucked under her arm like always. The second the deputy stepped out of the car, she walked up to them. "There's been a misunderstanding," she said. "The boy was just expressing his concern over misuse of community space. But this man," she pointed at me, "threatened him, verbally and physically." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. One of the deputies turned to me. Did you threaten the kid, sir? I blinked. No. I yelled at him to stop vandalizing my barn. That's it. Janet cut in, her voice smooth but sharp. The boy's family says he was terrified, said Mr. Taylor chased him, and made aggressive threats. We're very concerned about the safety of our community. The younger deputy gave me a long look. We're going to need to take a statement. Do you mind coming with us while we get this sorted? Am I under arrest? I asked. No, sir, but we'd like to separate the parties and get the facts. So just like that, I was sitting in the back of a squad car, riding to the sheriff's substation, while Janet stood by my barn, talking to the other officer like she ran the place. They didn't keep me long, maybe an hour. I showed them my camera footage, explained what happened. No charges were filed. They said it looked like, she said situation, but word got out fast. By the next morning, I was being talked about on the local Nextdoor app, like I was some kind of psycho farmer with a rage problem. Dangerous man on the edge of Sunnyside. Not safe for kids. He's clearly unstable. That much land? Who even needs it? I didn't even have an account on that app, but people started sending me screenshots. And it didn't stop there. I noticed a couple regular customers hadn't picked up their CSA-produced boxes that week. One local cafe that used to buy my eggs sent me an email saying they were switching to another supplier. Then another canceled order. And another. Just like that, my little farm, the one I'd built from the ground up, started bleeding money. I was angry, but I tried to focus. I still had crops to manage, animals to feed, a barn to repaint. I thought maybe, just maybe, the storm would blow over. Then came the letter, a notice from a county planning board. Someone, no name listed, had filed a zoning complaint. The claim? That my farming operation was disrupting the residential character of the area. Noise complaints, smell complaints, safety issues. It was all complete garbage. I triple-checked my zoning before buying the land. My parcel was legally agricultural. I was within all code. Still, the county scheduled an inspection. Mandatory. I felt sick. This wasn't just some neighborhood drama anymore. This was official. They were dragging me into a system that didn't care about truth, just rules, complaints, and paperwork. I spent the next 3 days getting everything spotless. Cleaned the barn, trimmed the fence lines, reviewed every permit and zoning clause I had on file. The inspector was scheduled to show up at 10 a.m. on Friday. I was ready, or at least I thought I was. At 9:50, I heard voices. Not one, not two, a crowd. I walked to the end of the driveway, and there they were, about 15 people from Sunnyside Ridge, standing on the road outside my gate. Most of them had signs. Protect our neighborhood. No farming near families. Stop the nuisance. A few of them had their phones out, filming everything like they were documenting some kind of crime scene. And standing in front, dressed like she was leading a press conference, was Janet. I didn't say a word. I just turned and walked back to the barn, fists clenched, stomach churning. They wanted a show. They wanted a fight. But I wasn't going to give them either. At least, not yet. After the inspection, I couldn't shake the feeling that this went deeper than angry neighbors and petty complaints. Janet's behavior wasn't just about appearances or property lines. There was something sharper behind it. Too personal. Too intense. So I started digging. I pulled up old land records, local property sales, and county meeting minutes. I figured maybe I'd find something, anything, that would explain why she was so obsessed with my land. And then I found it. A planning meeting summary from just over a year ago. There was in black and white. Janet Bishop had submitted a proposal to purchase and rezone my parcel, the exact 20 acres I now owned. She wanted to turn it into community green space and shared recreation land for Sunnyside Ridge. Problem was, the county denied her request. They said the zoning couldn't be changed without a unanimous vote from adjacent property owners, and whoever owned the land at the time. They weren't interested in selling. That deal fell apart. 6 months later, I bought the property, fair and square. Now it all made sense. She didn't just hate me because I was farming. She hated me because I had something she wanted. And no matter how many rules she threw at me, no matter how many times she smiled that fake little smile, she couldn't control it, couldn't control me. I wasn't just an eyesore. I was a threat. That's when I decided I wasn't going to play defense anymore. I had a friend draft formal cease and desist letters, and I delivered them personally to every member of the HOA board. If anyone from Sunnyside Ridge stepped foot on my land again, they'd be facing legal consequences. I also upgraded my security. Reinforced the fencing with steel mesh, added motion-activated floodlights around the barn, and swapped out my trail cams for better ones. Infrared high-resolution cloud backup. No more missing footage. It felt good to do something, to stop reacting and start pushing back. But then, things got worse. Way worse. It happened late one night, around 1:30 a.m. I was dead asleep when I heard the sound of breaking glass. Sharp and fast, like a rock through a window. I grabbed my flashlight and shotgun and ran to the front room. My front window was shattered. A brick lay on the floor, surrounded by shards. No note this time. No message. Just violence. I checked the cameras. Whoever did it wore a hoodie and stayed just out of range of driveway lights. They knew where the blind spots were. I called the sheriff's office. Again. They showed up, took a report, looked bored. Could have been random, the deputy mumbled. Kids, maybe, probably nothing. They didn't even dust for prints. I didn't sleep that night. And just when I thought that was the worst of it, my barn caught fire. I was inside making coffee the next morning when I saw smoke out the window. I ran outside barefoot, heart pounding. The back corner of the barn was already engulfed in flames. I grabbed the hose, tried to do something, anything. But it was too late. By the time the fire department arrived, that entire section was gone. Charred walls, melted equipment, tools ruined. The goats were fine. They'd been in the other enclosure. But it could have been so much worse. The fire marshal came later that day. Said the cause was inconclusive. Could have been faulty wiring, he said. Maybe a lightning strike. But there hadn't been any storms. And I'd rewired that whole barn myself. Double-checked it all just a few weeks earlier. I told him about the window, the threats, the trespassing. He nodded politely, took a few notes, and left. I knew what he was thinking. He didn't believe me. I drove to the sheriff's office again. Walked straight up to the same deputy who'd dismissed me before. Someone tried to burn my damn barn down, I said. He shrugged. There's no proof of that. I stared at him for a second. Then I turned and walked out. That's when it hit me. They weren't going to help me. Not the county. Not the police. Not the inspectors. They didn't want to get involved. Or maybe they were already in Janet's pocket. I didn't know. But what I did know, this wasn't going to stop on its own. Not unless I stopped it. It was time to go on offense. After the fire, I stopped trying to reason with anyone. I realized that no amount of signs, fences, or legal warnings was going to stop these people, especially Janet. If she wanted a war, fine. I wasn't going to sit back and get steamrolled, so I came up with a plan. One night, sitting at my desk with a cup of coffee and a worn-out laptop, I created a listing, a fake one. I posted it anonymously on a small farm development forum and a local Facebook group. The headline read, 20 acres available, farm lease opportunity, ideal for community use. In the description, I included just enough vague language to make it sound real, open for inspection, zone for agriculture, could be ideal for neighborhood co-op, trails, or communal gardens. I didn't add an address, just said, property adjacent to Sunnyside Ridge HOA, and then I waited. It didn't take long. Within 2 days, I noticed unfamiliar cars slowing down outside my gate. A group of people walked up the road in 2s and 3s, pretending they were out for a stroll. One guy even came onto the property, walked through my back lot, took pictures, and left without saying a word. But the big one? That came on Saturday morning. I was watching the trail cam feed from my phone when I saw her, Janet, wearing the same polo shirt, clipboard in hand, walking slowly along the inside of my rear fence line. Not the public side, the private side, my side. She was taking notes, snapping pictures, pointing at my irrigation system and field rows like she was appraising it all. I didn't confront her. I didn't yell. I just hit record. I filmed her walking the entire southern edge of my land. I caught her opening a gate that had a "No Entry" sign, stepping inside my greenhouse, and taking a photo of my seedling trays. I called the sheriff's office right then and there. She's on my land right now. I told them. I've got her on camera. This isn't trespassing by mistake. This is deliberate. 20 minutes later, a deputy rolled up. For once, it wasn't the usual one. This guy was new. Didn't know me, didn't know her. He walked onto the property, asked me for footage. I showed him the live feed on my phone. Janet was still there, standing by my compost pile like she was planning its future. The deputy nodded. "Stay here," he said. He walked up to her. I watched from a distance as they talked. Her expression shifted quickly. Confusion, then surprise, then anger. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw her arms flailing, the clipboard waving in the air like a flag. She kept pointing toward the neighborhood, like that gave her some kind of authority. The deputy didn't budge. After a few minutes, he walked her back toward a patrol car and had her sit on the bumper. She was being detained. I've never felt that kind of satisfaction before. Not from yelling, not from arguing, just standing there, silent, while the one person who'd been pushing me around for weeks finally had to answer to someone. While she sat there stewing, I went back inside and gathered everything I had. Screenshots from next-door posts where she called me a property threat. Messages from neighbors saying she was organizing tours of my land. Footage from trail cams showing HOA members walking through my fields. I sent it all to my lawyer. By the time the deputy finished his report and left with Janet, I had an email out to the county too. No more waiting. No more hoping they'd take me seriously. And here's the thing. I wasn't just mad about her being on my land. I was mad because now I knew what she'd been doing with it. She wasn't just trying to bully me. She was trying to claim my property through reputation, intimidation, and paperwork. Behind closed doors, she was building a story, a fake one, that my land was hers to manage, that it was already part of the community. I'd caught her in the act, and now I had proof. After Janet got detained for trespassing, I could have stopped right there. Most people would have. I had the footage. The sheriff had finally taken me seriously. My fences were safe, for now. But something still didn't sit right. Why had she been walking my land like she owned it? Why the photos? The notes? The clipboard? It wasn't just nosiness. She had a purpose. So I kept digging. This time, I went deep into public records, planning commission filings, county archives. Anything I could find that had her name on it. And there it was. Buried inside a zoning committee agenda from 3 months prior was a document labeled Phase 2, Sunnyside Ridge Expansion Proposal. I opened the PDF and felt my stomach drop. Right there in the submitted site plans was my land, all 20 acres, outlined in red, labeled as Proposed Green Corridor and Shared Community Space. It even showed future walking paths, a dog park, and a small playground right on top of my barn. She had never bought the land. She had no permission to use it. But she'd filed those plans with the county as if the property was already part of her development. I wasn't just being harassed. I wasn't just a thorn in her side. I was a legal obstacle, and she was trying to erase me. I called my land use attorney immediately, sent him everything. He told me flat out, this wasn't just a zoning issue anymore. It looked like attempted fraud. I asked him one more thing. What happens if I take this to press? He said, they're going to run with it. And they did. I sent everything to a local journalist I'd met years ago during my engineering days. I gave him documents, photos, trail cam footage, and the Phase 2 proposal with my parcel clearly marked. 2 days later, the headline dropped. HOA president in a legal land grab scheme. The article laid it all out. The fake expansion plans, the zoning pressure, the harassment, even her trespassing incident and sheriff's report. It spread fast, local Facebook groups, community forums, even the HOA's own internal emails, which someone later forwarded to me anonymously. Janet was suspended within 24 hours. The HOA board scrambled into damage control mode. Some members claimed they had no idea what she was doing. Others tried to resign quietly, but the lawsuit started almost immediately. One homeowner filed for HOA misrepresentation. Another accused her of fraud. And me? I filed a formal harassment complaint. And this time, the court took it seriously. Within a week, I had a protective order that barred Janet from coming within 500 feet of me or my property. A week after that, I got a letter from the county. My zoning hearing? Canceled. Complaint? Dismissed. Their exact words. There is no evidence of any violation. No further action required. I read the letter 3 times before setting it down. It was over. Almost. Because even with all that Janet gone, the HOA in chaos, and my land secure, I didn't feel finished. Not yet. She'd tried to rewrite reality. Tried to make the county, the community, and even me believe that I didn't belong here. That she had the right to take something I'd earned just because she wanted it to look a certain way on a map. And I wasn't about to let her walk away quietly. After the article dropped and Janet disappeared from the HOA board, things unraveled fast. People stopped pretending everything was fine. The HOA's legal fees started piling up. A couple of board members got hit with personal lawsuits for negligence. Monthly dues doubled, then tripled. That didn't sit well with the residents who had nothing to do with any of it. Within 2 months, 4 houses in Sunnyside Ridge went up for sale. Another 2 quietly pulled up stakes and rented their places out just to get out from under the mess. I watched it all happen from my front porch with a fresh cup of coffee and zero sympathy. Then one day, I got a call from a realtor. A corner property right up against the south edge of my farm had just hit the market. 3 bedrooms, decent land buffer, and, thanks to the HOA disaster, priced to sell fast. I bought it in cash. Didn't even haggle, just to make a point. Once the paperwork cleared, I knocked the back fence down between the 2 lots and added a gravel path leading straight to my farm stand. I expanded the garden beds and built a shaded canopy for customers. And then, just for fun, I put up a big sign that said, local, legal, and not for share. It felt like planting a flag. For the first time since this whole thing started, neighbors began approaching me. Quietly, respectfully. One woman, probably in her 60s, walked up to me during a Saturday market and said, "I'm sorry for everything that happened. Janet scared us all into going along with it. We should have spoken up sooner." I didn't hold a grudge, not against people like her. I just nodded and said, "It's over now. That's what matters." Word got around that Janet moved out of town not long after the article. I don't know where she went. I don't care. The HOA rewrote most of its bylaws. No more unofficial expansions. No more board members acting alone. Every decision now has to go through community vote. And they've kept their noses out of my land ever since. As for me, I finally got what I came here for. Peace. The barn's rebuilt. The crops are thriving. The goats are doing just fine. I walk my land every evening now, just like I used when I first moved in, except this time, with the full knowledge that no one's come to take it away from me. Not with rules, not with lies, not with fake maps or board meetings. This land is mine, every inch of it. They thought they could force me to share what I built. Instead, I show them what happens when you mess with the wrong farmer.